welcome back to another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. And we are continuing on with our series of building Frankenstein football players out of the 2025 NFL Draft class. Today, we have defensive tackles, the hog mollies in the middle. It is a very, very sneaky good class if you need an interior defender. I think especially if you want an interior defender who could possibly bring you some versatile pass rush snaps at the NFL level. There are some gap shooters. There are some guys with some good hands, some flexibility, some versatility. And we are going to talk about a lot of those guys in here. And we are probably not going to talk about some guys who everybody is talking about in this class. But if you guys listen to this podcast, you should not be surprised by that. I do not do this alone. I have my co-host Corey Kinnan here with me. Corey, how are you doing today?
Living the dream. I am living the dream. Ready to build another Frankenstein here. I've really enjoyed this defensive tackle class, so this is a really fun, good episode here to knock out some names and even hit on some names we didn't, because like there are some names I really wanted to include that I couldn't, and some names that I didn't want to include that other people would have. So yeah, lots to talk about, lots to talk through.
Yes, but let's get started. The pass rush plan is, or the pass rush ability is what we're going with here. Run defense, length, power, burst athleticism, flexibility, and versatility. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories. Just starting off with the pass rush. We're going to start with you this time. I started off the edge class. Who is your guy at pass rush?
So this came down to really a process of elimination of like, where am I going to use this guy by filling out around him and then throwing him in at the end. Because again, I think I could have used him for run defense. I could have used him for length and power, for flexibility even. But I'm going to go with pass rush for, I'm going to go Oregon's Derek Harmon here for pass rush. And honestly, it comes down to a little bit of he led the nation in interior pressures like that. That's a big deal. But again, I think he wins in a variety of ways. I've been pretty vocal on this podcast that he's a player that I went into it thinking like, I'm not going to like Derek Harmon as much as consensus. Like those guys who like pop up mid-season, it's like, oh no, this guy's actually a first round pick. I'm like, are they? But then you watch them and we're like, oh yeah, Derek Harmon's good. My defensive tackle too in this class. And I know some people love Kenneth Grant. Some people love Walter Nolan. I love Derek Harmon. I think he's a really stellar run defender, but again, I'm touting his pass rush ability here. Ability to win outside shoulder through the chest. Coming back across face as well. But I do think the ability to go from 3 tech and win outside shoulder of a guard is really underrated for a defensive tackle. And I think that's something he does really, really well. Again, his body type is really strange, but I think he uses his hands well, has a lot of upside, was schemed up a lot with playing next to Jamari Caldwell, and that's going to happen. But I do think he gives you a very solid foundation of an interior pass rusher who can also be a 3-down player. So Derek Harmon is who I'm going to go with pass rush here.
Yeah, and for a lot of the same reasons that you talked about Derek Harmon being your pass rusher, Mason Graham is my pass rusher. The hands, I've talked about it, and I've weirdly seen a lot of people talk about the lack of a power profile with him, and maybe they're thinking more of a lack of running through an MFer's chest. Because when I watch Mason Graham, the first thing that stands out to me is his flexibility, which for his size is outrageous. But the second thing that really stands out to me are his hammers for hands, specifically as a pass rusher. His ability to dissect pass protections and get through guys' shoulders is outrageous. And part of that comes from his ability to bend as well. And that's why this isn't just a pass rush plan thing, but just an overall ability as a one-on-one pass rusher. And for me, that's really the difference between him and Derek Harmon, where you talked about it a little bit more. There was more scheming up with Derek Harmon, and that's not a bad thing. I think Harmon's intelligence as an interior defender is something that goes underrated as well because of how well he works with his teammates in those situations. But I think with Graham, you just tell me that somebody has to line up against a guard and beat them in this class. Mason Graham is the guy that I'm going to go with. because I think Mason Graham can also bend on the outside of an offensive tackle.
Mhm.
Like, he's not really explosive enough to do it, but to have that flexibility to be able to do it at 305 pounds is insane. And so for me, this was clear cut. He is the top, well, first of all, defensive tackle in this class. And second of all, the clear cut guy that I could pick for pass rusher, mostly because I can use Derek Harmon somewhere else as well.
Yeah, and that's fair. And there's a place I can use Mason Graham as well. In my standing is as well. We overlapped on the next two: run defense
Yep.
and length and power. I'll start. We'll just start with run defense and talk about why we picked Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State for our run defense here.
Yeah, he's the most complete. Like, in my opinion, Alfred Collins is the best run defender I've ever watched. But with the 34, potentially 35-inch arms and the pure power that he plays with, I had to use him for length and power, which is what we did as well.
Mhm.
But for run defense, I don't know if I've seen over a 2 to 3 year period in college football a more consistently dominant run defender or a consistently adequate run defender as Tyleik Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Just exactly what you need, exactly where you need him to be. He is very much that perfect soldier. Right time, right uniform, exactly as you asked him to be. Nothing more, nothing less. He's not an outrageous go-getter who's going to get out over his skis and get out of position trying to make a crazy play. No, he's going to get into his gap. He is going to sit down. He is going to attack his gap, and then he is going to sit down if he gets through your shoulder. Like, he just does exactly what you need him to do. And then he has the power profile. He's not very body beautiful. Like, his build is not very aesthetic, but he reminds you of a defensive tackle who's going to be a good run defender. And he very much is exactly that. I think he's one of our favorite players and has been one of our favorite players in this class since the summer and since last year. And for very good reason. He's just consistently dominant.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about the ability to win in a nuanced variety of ways as a run defender too, like I love Tyleik Williams. You know, he's very good at extending his hips into a gap to stop a dude from climbing. He's also very good at knee drop. He's probably the best in the class. Maybe the best I've ever seen at knee drop technique. Where in recent memory that I've evaluated at knee drop technique, where if he's taking on two, he's going to drop to a knee and he's just gonna boulder himself in. And then I think he's like, I go back to the Michigan game in 2023, where I just think his stack and shed timing is unbelievable as well.
Yes,
Just
a proactive playmaker.
Yes, just like the timing of when he knows to throw off, which gap to shed into is unbelievable. So when we're talking about a run defender, yeah, you could have gone Alfred Collins here. Obviously, we both went Alfred Collins for length and power, 35-inch arms, freaking hammers for hands. So this is kind of a good way to get both out, get the best of both worlds here when we're building our defensive tackle. But Tyleik Williams, day one starter, and a guy who's just not going to be moved out of his gap. And so that was an easy decision there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for length and power, we obviously have Alfred Collins. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody just displace SEC offensive linemen the way that he does. I mean, he just kind of forklifts that. Not even like a legitimate forklift move, because that is a different thing, but like actually like a forklift with his arms and lift up and just like, you're gonna go here. It's like he's flat out big boying him. It's like me picking up my son when he goes uppies, and I just hands up under the shoulders, lift him up, and place him somewhere else. Like, what I saw from Alfred Collins as a run defender, it boggled my mind. And then to see the athleticism that he plays with, to see the length that he plays with, how heavy his hands are, and just not freaking understanding why he's so bad as a pass rusher. But I digress. Length and power, Alfred Collins.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have anything else to add there for Alfred Collins. So moving on here, we've got different names here for burst athleticism. For me, this is where I threw Mason Graham into, because like I hated to narrow him down to one specific trait, like one specific avenue. But if I could just put his overarching athleticism, his overarching burst, and let that cover a variety of aspects, like you need burst and athleticism to be a good pass rusher. You need burst and athleticism to be a good run defender. Like that's kind of where I felt like I was going to throw him into. So that's where I'm putting Mason Graham in there, hot off the ball. We've talked about the heavy hands. Once that first step is there, athleticism to bend to win outside shoulders. So just overall, generally a stellar athlete for an interior defensive lineman. And so I'm going to give him that overall umbrella that kind of covers the rest of the traits of being a defensive tackle there.
Yeah, and for me, burst and athleticism, I went with a sawed off a 305 pounder with great explosiveness, great burst, was an absolute phenom at the Senior Bowl. That is Toledo's Darius Alexander. And I could have picked him at another spot here. I actually could have chosen him at two other spots, I think, because I think even at 305 pounds, we saw it in Mobile that he could legitimately come off the edge as well, because he did. He showed us that he could. And he weighed in at 305 pounds at the combine.
Yep.
So it's not like he got really small for the Senior Bowl. And like he tested really, really well at 305 pounds. This dude is an athlete.
Yeah.
And so for me, I went with burst and athleticism. Darius Alexander, defensive tackle, who I think can just play base 4-3 defensive end. It's insane.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over our flexibility and just go to versatility here, because this is where I had Darius Alexander coming off the board here. And what you mentioned about what he did at the Senior Bowl is exactly why I put him here. Like playing at a MAC school at Toledo, they're going to put him closest to the football every snap, and they're going to ask him to do like just get to the quarterback, get after ball carriers, and that doesn't lend him to a lot of versatility at the college levels. But playing,
you could have used him for pass rush too, because some of his pass rush reps are unreal on the interior.
There's a reason he's probably going to go top 64, even being 25 years old, even from playing at Toledo. Like, he is a very well-rounded player. And then, but we went into Mobile to the Senior Bowl, and we both left saying this guy might be the best player on his squad. Like, he might be the best overall player on that squad. Just going up against NFL draft qualifying offensive tackles. And it was a very good Senior Bowl crop of offensive tackles too. Josh Connerly, Jonas Savaiinai, Marcus Bowe, all like these big named guys were down in Mobile, and he was consistently beating them. And what was most impressive is he was doing it in 11-on-11 settings. It wasn't one-on-ones that he was beating these offensive tackles. It was in live reps. It was both. Yeah.
Just but winning.
Live 11-on-11 reps. Like, and he was doing it from edge. He was doing it from interior. So whatever team gets Darius Alexander is going to give them a really solid. I mean, like, he could play base big end for you if you really wanted him to. He could be an interior rusher if you want to throw some You could kick him outside if you want a NASCAR package and you want to kick one of your speedy guys inside. Like, there's so much that you could do with Darius Alexander on your football team. And so I went with him for my versatility pick here.
Yeah, not a bad decision for you at all. For flexibility, I went with Shamar Turner. And Shamar Turner is a guy who I could have, first of all, Mason Graham would have walked away with this one if I would have chosen Mason Graham for it. But Shamar Turner is just a name that everybody has forgotten about. We talk so much about the edge duo at Texas A&M. And we forget this is a guy who played on the edge. He's played defensive tackle. He's played in it one technique as well. And I think that he's obviously undersized for the position. He's 295 pounds. This is what he weighed in at. He probably plays at like 285, 290. And I think a lot like Darius Alexander, like he could play inside, he could play outside. But for me, it's the flexibility that he plays with against the run that really stood out to me. And then as a pass rusher, when he was able to pin his ears back, we talked about it on the edge, or you talked about it on the edge episode, the difference between like a hip and ankle flexibility. And I think for him, I see it a lot more with the hip flexibility and being able to kind of contort. Whereas with somebody like Mason Graham, you see it a lot more in the ankles and the ability to like really soften rush angles in that way. And so for me, Shamar Turner is just somebody who we've kind of just ignored and forgot about, but is a day two player and can be a really versatile player for your defense at the NFL level and an NFL that is becoming more and more multiple with their fronts.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I went with flexibility, and I'm kind of cheating here as well because I think the flexibility on top of the hip flexibility also has positional flexibility. So a little cheating with the definition here.
I'm cool with that. And he did all of that while playing on a stress fracture that didn't heal from a preseason surgery. And that's why he didn't test. That's why he pulled out of the Senior Bowl. Like,
Yeah,
I do think Shamar Turner is one of those cases. Like, well, if he would have went to the Senior Bowl, if he would have tested, like, where would we be talking about Shamar Turner? But I'm glad to see that Dane still thought of Shamar Turner very highly in the Beast. He's a top 100 player there. So, yeah, he's a fun player. That LSU game, man, is like the Shamar Turner show in that
yeah.
LSU game this year. For flexibility for me, I went with another undersized defensive tackle in this class, but one of the more quick, twitchy, fluid, just like what adjective do I want to describe him as? Just like the kid in high school, like the kid in elementary school who won't stay at his desk. Like the teacher can't get that kid to just sit still at his desk. And that's who I think Anais Peoples out of Virginia Tech kind of is. Duke transferred to Virginia Tech. And again, a lot of the ways that he wins is his ability to reduce surface area and to play smaller than the man across from him. He's oily, he's twitchy. Dudes just can't get their hands on Anais Peoples. Again, do I think he's an every down player? No, I don't. I think he's a rotational, situational, passing obvious kind of guy you throw on the field and you hope to get some pass rush production out of him. But when he is on the field and he is in those pass rush situations, he is a tough dude to block. And it's a lot because of his ability to play outside of his frame, to contort his body and reduce that surface area, and just doesn't give interior blockers anything to punch at. Just a slippery little dude. So I'm going to go with Anais Peoples for flexibility.
Greased up deaf guy from Family Guy is who Anais Peoples is. Greased up deaf guy. For versatility, you're done. You
I
already
am done.
you already
I
went.
talked
You are
about Darius
done.
Alexander here and his ability to play wherever you want him to.
There's a name that we have not brought up, or I have not brought up yet, that is going here, and it's for every reason Corey talked about earlier. It's Derek Harmon. I mean, we both went into this like, oh, he's got all this pass rush production. This guy probably is going to stink against the run. And I turned on the tape and I was like, I'm more impressed with his
Yeah.
ability against the run than I am as a pure pass rusher here. And he's doing this at a weird build of, 310, 315, 320 pounds. I think he played at Michigan State at 320 plus. Um, I think that he could play reduced down as a one technique, as a zero, the length that he plays with, the ability to maintain his positional leverage and his ability as a proactive disengagement player against the run to make plays. There was a play against Ohio State where Quinshon Judkins had a touchdown, and he came from a couple of gaps over and disengaged and made a play. It was 4 or 5 yards downfield, but it was a touchdown saving play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the type of thing, the type of proactive playmaking ability as a run defender that really showed up for him as a pass rusher as well. But you can put him at three tech and he can be that slasher as well. He has the DeForest Buckner swim move in his arsenal as that like weirdly built 6'5" defensive tackle who's a little bit tall. But even though he plays a little bit tall sometimes, he doesn't lose the leverage battle even playing at that height. And he's always able to see through offensive linemen and to be proactive as a playmaker. He's just a solid football player. And I was pleasantly surprised with his tape the more I watched him. So shout out to Derek Harmon in this class, man, for making it a battle at the top. I don't think he's the same athlete that Mason Graham is. But man, just a really good football player overall. That versatility is there with him.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I wouldn't be like Derek Harmon's one of those guys I won't be shocked if he goes like 30th. And I'm like, I also wouldn't be shocked if he went like 11th to Niners.
Yeah.
It's like one of those guys whose variety of outcome on draft day is wide. And that's just because he's just solid all around. I do think he's going to go round 1. I really do. And is it in the top 15? I really think it could. So yeah, I love me some Derek Harmon. So let's work back through these a little bit here. Dalton, for pass rush, you said Mason Graham. Run D, Tyleik Williams. Length power, Alfred Collins. Burst athleticism, Darius Alexander. Flexibility, Shamar Turner. Versatility, Derek Harmon. I went pass rush, Derek Harmon. Run D, Tyleik Williams. Length power, Alfred Collins, as you did. Burst athleticism, Mason Graham. Flexibility, Ainias Peebles. And versatility, Darius Alexander. What do you got for the people here, Dalton?
Oh, we will be back with cornerbacks next. You're not going to get as much excitement from this cornerback class as you did the edge class or the defensive tackle class. But when we are talking about superlatives, we should be able to get through this pretty easily because there are a lot of like scheme and superlative specific guys in this class.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to have a conversation about Will Johnson again at some point in this episode, just because.
I agree. I wonder why.
Yeah, that's all. That's it. That's all we got. That's all I got. Thank you guys for listening as always. And remember that I love you. Bye.